zoom in. So tonight we are, welcome to Try Out Tuesday. If you haven't been here before, my name's Bev from Bee Crafty, and tonight we're going to be doing some art journaling in my small book. So we're going to be waiting for a few people to join us, and then we will absolutely get started. I'm going to turn the notifications off my phone because I forgot to do that last week, and there was a bit of pinging at the beginning, which of course we do not need. So let's just have a look. See if I can get the comments up. Hello, Moira. Hello, Sam. Okay. So, here's the deal. I've just knocked a load of cutout things on the floor. Never mind. I'll get them later. It's okay. It'd be weird if I didn't start with a little crafty lunch. I cannot believe I've just done that. So, I'm going to think about what I want to say. On Try Out Tuesday, I do try, generally, to do a slightly bigger project. But, as you will have no doubt seen, I've been doing lots of reels and shorts and things like that recently. And I haven't done any in my little book. Now, if you look at my little book, look how close it is to being finished. And it's like, I've got to finish it. It has to be finished. I want completeness. So, if it's all right with you, I would like to do a page in this book this evening. Okay, so I'm just going to get a bulldog clip to hold that down. And I might need a bit of a bulldog clip to hold this down. But in order to test it a little bit, test me, whatever, I'm going to work on this week's Bee Crafty palette. Now, if you haven't seen the Bee Crafty palette yet, every week on a Monday, we are going to launch the Bee Crafty palette. So what I've done is I've put 2 palettes together so far this year because we've had 2 Mondays. And you can see those on the Instagram channel. You can see those on Facebook. If you do go to Instagram and you don't want to scroll and you just want to catch up, there is a Bee Crafty palette highlight. So you can just go in there and see the palettes straight away. Hello, my darling. We're all good, thank you. So what I have done, and I think you're going to be really impressed with this. So, for the Bee Crafty palette every week, what I do is I prep a little box of the things that match the palette, okay? So, these are the colours for this week's Bee Crafty palette. Now, they're not specifically distress colours or anything like that. As you can see, I've got a white Hero Arts pad. I've got my Black Verse Fine Clair. And I've got a distress ink here. I also have a couple of eco lines that are in the right colours, but you can see the palette together. Now, I will say, and I've got some lovely fussy cut bits that match the palette. Okay. I mean, they didn't just spontaneously match the palette, it was on purpose. Okay. Because this way, I figure it helps me. Now, I will say, this palette, when I made it, was one of those, it was quite bold because I made it and then I was like, does that even work as a palette? You know, do they make sense as a palette? Now, I will say I was very pleasantly surprised with how well they work together. I think it was this colour, the cracked pistachio type tealy colour, pale teal, if you want to call it that. No, it's not even a pale teal, is it? It's, you know what I mean. And I was sure it was sort of throwing the others off, but I actually really like it. And I think that's one of the good things about the Bee Crafty palette, that it's pushing colours together that maybe you wouldn't think of. That being said, the lovely Kim did ask on Facebook, I believe, don't quote me on that, if to hashtag the Bee Crafty palette on your own socials, do you have to have used every colour in the palette? Absolutely not. It's literally just a little bit of a bump start to get you going. So if you're like, oh, that's a good idea, I just want to use some reds and oranges with the black, that's absolutely fine. Do that and you can still hashtag Bee Crafty palette. In fact, I would really, really like it if you did that. Because, you know, I absolutely would. So let's get started. Let's get started. We'll move these up out the way. See, I can leave them all sort of around a bit because we're in the little book. Isn't that good? Okay, so in here, I've got some... I've done a lot of the moths, but I've already done a card using the moths for this week's Bee Crafty palette. So I think we'll put them to the side and instead maybe go for these little Gerberas off the Doodle Art Gerbera stamp set. Let me get that to show you. So the Gerbera Doodle Art has got this little one here. It's almost one layer of petals. So it's like the centre one from here, just one layer in a way. Okay, so you can obviously layer that up, decoupage it. So what I've done is I've coloured those in using the palette. Aren't they really, really cute? So I thought we could use those. Or I did also use the flower from Journaling Essentials 9 to put those colours together as well. And the white is part of the palette for this one. So, you know, it can be quite a strong component. Okay, I have done waffling. I say that as if it was a task that needed completed. Not really, but never mind. Right, so let's go for, because these are very sort of thin pages. So in this book, I do like to layer first. So I think I'm going to go with some Catalyst card. So let's have a little look. I think one of the best ones to start with, if you haven't seen Catalyst cards before, they come in A6 and A5 and some are in A4. I'm supposed to be doing them all in A4, but I just haven't got there yet. So I'm thinking if I take one of the Ledger print ones, which is Catalyst cards 4, I believe. Do not quote me on that, but I think it's Catalyst cards 4. I'm trying to find a cover sheet. It's Catalyst cards number 4. Go me. And then we can add in some colour to it using the Distress. Okay. So I actually use my ruler as part of the balance for my iPad for videoing. So I can't measure particularly well right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this down. I suppose I could use this, couldn't I? To give me a bit of an ish. Tell you what, let's go for a 10cm square and see how we get on. Oh, that's squeaky. Cutting off the white edges because I want to do this sort of like an edge-to-edge page. I didn't do that one very well, but obviously I have got it balancing on my ink pads. So I'm just going to cut that one right there, and then you can see how we're doing, because you cut those off and it's just under 10cm across. So let's have a little look and see how that goes on. Okay. It's a little bit too wide. Now, of course, do not do this with scissors if you really are a fan of a perfectly straight edge. I like them, but not enough to worry about it too much. Look at that. Absolutely lovely. And the beautiful thing about the Ledger ones, quite obviously, is that you can make your own Ledger style junk journals and things like that if you want. You know, so it sort of frees you up to turn any book you have into a ledger book. And I will say, this time of year is a really good time. Bear with, I just need to get my brush in my water. I live in a very small house, it's not far away. This time of year is when we all sort of get new diaries and things like that. So you could always turn an old diary into a ledger book by just covering the pages. Fab. Fantastic, yes? Well, I think it is. Okay. So let's put a little bit of matte medium onto our page. And just to get, sorry, a really good adherence, I know, thank you, I'm going to put some on the back of the Catalyst card as well. Because the Catalyst card is quite weighty. Now, the Catalyst card, if you haven't had any before, are a lightweight, high quality card. So you couldn't use them, for example, as a card blank. They haven't got the weight for that. So they are a layering card, but they are much weightier than, for example, the Catalyst collage. Okay, I'm just trying to tuck that in down there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to press it onto the back of that one. Now, in fairness, when I made this page, it did stick the pages together and sort of rip them when I tore them apart. So this is actually going to give it a little bit of extra strength. But as you can see, the book is very full. But what I didn't do is I didn't remove enough signatures early on, so I've had to remove quite a lot later on, which is why we have this bend, which is why now if I have a book, I take a lot of the signatures out to start with, the centres of them. I have been through that before, but I can do it again if anyone would like me to. Okay, so that is on. Now, because I didn't go over the top with my matte medium, we don't need to worry about waiting for it to dry to start. Now, of course, you could always do like the blending and inking on it before you stick it on, if that's what you're more comfortable with. I don't really mind. If I get a little bit of ink on another bit, it's really not that big of a concern. But you can always as well just put a piece of card next to it and you are good to go. Okay, now I'm going to go in. I'm going to do something I generally don't recommend you do, which is what makes it so fun. I'm going to go in with my strongest colour first, which for this red, because it was a real red on the palette, so I've gone for the Distress Ink Candied Apple, because I just felt with the Distress Ink rather than Oxide, we get that really rich sort of apple, really vibrant, which is what we want. Now, I will say I'm going to get another piece of card. So, you know, when you see on my reels and things where I say, oh, I've got things that have got things on them already, this is how a lot of them start. Okay, so I'm going to get a blending brush. As you can see, it's a relatively new one. And I'm going to get some Distress Ink Candied Apple on there. Okay. And we're just going to blend some of that on in a couple of areas. The chances of me getting no red all over everywhere is very slim. But, you know, I'm just going to try and blend that out into a nice sort of haziness. Okay, now this is where I will say I will suffer, because I never really know whether to use a blue or a green blending brush, but I did buy some new ones and it sort of has a cracked pistachio colour. Look at that. Amazing. Okay, and so we'll go with cracked pistachio next. And I'm just going to sort of work outwards. Now this is an Oxide, so it will sit on top of that candied apple if we want it to. Travels as well, doesn't it, Oxide? You don't really notice until you're using it alongside an ink. So we're going to put that on there. Absolutely lovely. Now, what I am going to do is we're then going to bring in an inkable to put a larger pattern on the background, and I'm going to use the Spiced Marmalade for this. Now, I will say, in terms of the orange on this week's Bee Crafty palette, that one really is open for interpretation. You could really go... So I've gone for a Spiced Marmalade, which is, for want of a better description, a really warm orange with a slightly brown undertone. But you could quite easily go for a Carved Pumpkin, which is more vibrant, or something like that. Or, you know, so the pen, the Ecoline colour, is described as light orange. So it really is, and that's what I did use to colour that. Now, in fairness, I don't think there's anything light about that orange. I consider it quite vibrant. But, you know. They didn't ask me to name the colours, did they? So, you know. So let's gonna go in, and we're gonna go in with this Honeycomb 3 in the 6x6 inkables. There are several Honeycomb inkables. This one is Honeycomb 3. So, spoiler alert, there's 2 others as well that came before it. Right, so I'm going to go over the top. Oh, and I'm going to concentrate over the red to start with, because I think it'll be really nice to have the spiced marmalade honeycomb with the sort of red in between. But I'm probably just going to cover it at this point. And I'm going to lift that off. Stunning. Okay. But look how well... I'm going to lift that out. Look how well those oranges work with that cracked pistachio. You wouldn't automatically think they'd work together. But they just do. I absolutely love it. Okay. Right, and then we're going to go for some journaling essentials. I think I'm going to go... I'm not going to use 9. I'm not going to use 9. Honestly, it's barely left my desk. Tell you what, we're going to go for Journal Art Elements number 2. We're not going to use journaling essentials. We're going to use Journal Art Elements number 2. This was obviously one of my first... Before journaling essentials, there was Journal Art Elements. And there was a few of these that we released with the faces. This one I absolutely love. It's got lots of mark making stamps on there, which are really great if you're not super confident doing things freehand. And it's not so much I'm not super confident doing things freehand. I just think stamping them is easier, because you just get that ease of repetition. So I'm going to go with these open circles first, because I'm thinking to bring some white back into the background, I can fill those in with my Posca. So I'm just going to grab my Super Skinny Slim. I'm going to go with my journaling one and put it on landscape on the portrait block, if you see what I mean. Okay. So I'm going to get my VersaFine Clair. I'm not going to get the lid off though, apparently. I'm going to just tap, tap, tap on there. Put it on the top. On the bottom. And just for funsies, I'm going to put a little bit more down there. Now, you do have to, and I'm sorry, I really don't say you have to do anything when it comes to your journal. However, if you are doing your stamping and things in your journal after you've stuck it in and it's a nearly complete journal with lots of complete pages underneath, you do have to accept there might be little errors in your stamping, and you might have to go back in. For example, if the fact that circle is not complete really upsets you, and just fill it in with a pen, because you're working on an uneven surface. So you either have to accept that or stamp it before it goes in. But because I don't always know what I'm doing until I've done it, that's not always an option for me. Okay, I am going to give that a bit of a waft with the heat tool. Tell you what I'm going to do first. I'm going to plug my heat tool in. Funny story, the reason my heat tool is not plugged in is because I have a heated blanket on my chair for during the day, and that was plugged in earlier. Don't judge me, it's been chilly. You see, I've just noticed those two here. Now, the thing with the journaling essentials is I think they're all hand drawn, so you can just hand draw any missing bits and it'll go lovely. All right, and then we're going to get a Posca. Have I actually, they're my skinny Poscas. Have I got a bigger one? No, but I've got a larger white Sharpie. Maybe this will work. We're going to give it a go, because these are quite big centres in these. We're just going to sort of bring back, reclaim some of the white of those, because it is on our colour palette. I mean, I will say if it, oh, hello, if it wasn't on the colour palette, I would still be doing this, because I just think it helps break it up a little. Don't worry about it if it goes too splodgy. We do not worry. Might get it going off the page though, because bear in mind this is still the background we're working on. The actual focus is going to be on either the flower or flowers that we add on. Okay, so then that has just helped us reclaim a little bit of the white. What I'm going to do, just add a couple little hand drawn on here. I'm going to put one in there as well. I will get my skinny white Posca for going around and doing my faux stitch. Every page in this book has a faux stitch. I say that as if other pages in other books don't have it, but I'm just illustrating with this one. We're a long way into the book now, so I can't not do it now. I think this skinny Posca is coming towards the end of its life. The fab thing about these skinny Poscas is, you know, they weren't even mine. I bought them for Abby when she was doing her photography GCSE. I will say that was nearly 2 years ago, so if they are coming to the end of its life, they've fully earned their break. There we go, we're working fine now. Make sure it's nice and white on that red. And then that sort of gives us just an edge to the page. The white page was your white. Well, there you go, you see. But like I said, these are things that I would be adding on to this, even if white wasn't on the palette. But I honestly felt with this palette, the contrast of that sort of cracked pistachio colour with the orange, I'd already given enough colours to play with. So that's why the black and white's on that palette. I was just trying. Right, now I'm going to take this circle, this centre circle, which is just a loose line circle, and I'm going to go in, I think, with my spice marmalade, and just add in a little bit more stamped interest, because they are just too fun for words. And why wouldn't you? If you have them, you should absolutely use them. There's no such thing as wasted stash if it's being used. If it's being used, it's not being wasted. I absolutely love this background. Right, so now we're going to have a play around with that. No, we're not going to use Journaling Essentials 9. That's what I said, didn't I? So we're going to have a play with these gerberas. And I think this is the thing, when you look at the Doodle Art Gerbera, you can look at that and think that's a really big stamp, which is brilliant. But sometimes you can almost think, is that almost too big? I mean, no, it's not. But you do have this little one here, which is great to use for your smaller projects if you want to. So I think they sit on there absolutely lovely. But do we need to put them some stems on? I think possibly we do. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly grab my heat tool again just to set some of this paint pen. Otherwise, I'm going to make an absolute mess. But I will say thank you so much to everyone who has been having a go with the Bee Crafty palette. Sally's Floral Challenge is still up in the Bee Crafty Stamps group. So for example, if you were to have a go at making your own version of this page, and you could do that into a card or a tag or an ATC, you could enter that because we've got flowers on it. You could do something with the Bee Crafty flower, the palette and flowers, and enter that. And you can enter 3 times, so why not? Okay. Now, I will say, I'm not sure there's anything on here we can use to create a stem. So let's just, with this we are going to do freehand. And like I previously mentioned, my ruler is currently holding up my iPad. So we will use the edge of my Super Skinny Slim. And this is a wing and a prayer moment. Okay, so we're going to do 1 stem down here. 1 stem here. And 1 stem there. And then we're going to get our skinny Posca back. Okay. And we're just going to dot down the stem just to break it up a little bit. To be honest, this one that's going through these I don't think it's such a big deal. This one out here definitely is. Now, you don't really have to worry about how long they are, because your little Gerberas, obviously you could put it right on the end here, but you could actually take it all the way down to here as well, and no one's going to know how long the stem is underneath. So it's all about, now in fairness, what I'm going to do is I am going to put that one in the middle, I think. So I'm going to grab some wet glue. And I actually really like that one down there. I think that's really, really cute. Now, these are obviously already coloured in and ready to go. You know me, I absolutely love having things stamped and coloured in and ready to go, because I think when it comes time to make a page or card or your project, it just makes everything go a lot faster. And you get that satisfaction of completion really, really quick, which I'm a fan of. Okay, now let's just, I'll tell you what, if we just lift that up that size, that's probably going to make that slightly easier to see. Now, I think for a sentiment, what we should do, because I'm trying not to use too, but this is sort of like my new thing for this year. I don't know if it'll hold, but I'll try. I'm trying not to use too many stamp sets per Try It Out Tuesday, okay? So we've got a Gerbera set and our Journal Art Elements 2, and that's it. Now, the beautiful thing from here is we've got these lots of lovely words on the Gerbera set as well, which makes it a really great set. Alison was just saying she prefers this one. Now, I have to say, I do use the bottom section of this stamp set more than I use the centre one. But for me, because you've got the 5 phrases and a corner and a little bird, it's still brilliant. I use this a lot for backgrounds too. So shall we go with a little, I think a little Bloom and Grow. I think that would be lovely. Right, so we'll grab that. And also our trusty journal, journal border size Super Skinny, okay, which I have to say is also a perfect size for the small Gerbera. Just going to give them another little press. Excellent. Scrap a white card, keep next to my desk, and we'll go with our Versifying Claire. Bloomin' lovely for the Bloom and Grow. Now, I will say the other thing about the words on your Gerbera set is they can go so well with anything. They're really not specific to this set. It's not like you can only use them with this set. So if you are, it's actually quite a good starting out set. You've got a big thing to colour in, little things to add on, and some words. Lovely. Right, big scissors. But I've picked up some that aren't my gluey ones. Okay. And then I'm going to get my little cutting out scissors. So these are the scissors I use for all my fussy cutting. And I'm going to swallowtail pennant the ends of both ends. And I think that's going to sit across there. Absolutely beautiful. So again, I'm going to get my wet glue back. I'm going to put that on here. And I'll place that right in the middle. What I am just going to do is I'm just going to hold that. Oh, hello. Or move pretty much straight away. I'm just going to hold that down because of the bend in the book. I'm going to use my tweezers just to hold that down just a second while it sort of tacks on. Now, I will say what this page has made me want to do is do a bigger version in a big journal. I don't know if I would be able to fit, I don't know which journal I would need to use to fit 3 of the big gerberas in. But I am tempted to give it a go. I really much am. Really much. That was grammatical waffle. Never mind. Okay, so while we're just gluing, a bit of housekeeping or a bit of begging, whichever way you want to look at it, I'm fine. Okay, if you are seeing any of the reels, photos, any of the content I'm currently putting out, which is quite a bit, it's at least 3 bits a day, could you please comment on it, or at the very least like it? That would be fabulous. I mean, if you want to share it, you know, you've become one of my favourite peeps, but a comment would be marvellous. I have set up a new Bee Crafty TikTok, which is Bee Crafty 1, because we lost access to the other one and nothing I'm asking TikTok to do to help me is coming to any sort of fruition. So please follow that if you're a TikTok person. But yeah, anything on Facebook, Instagram, or right here on YouTube, if you can comment on it, that will be great. Thank you so much for joining me. Please make sure, if you are a Facebooker, that you are in the Bee Crafty Stamps group so you can take part in Sally's challenge. And yeah, the Bee Crafty palette's up. Please make sure you check out Instagram for the, like I say, I'm trying to put out as much inspiration as I can. And if you like a photo step-by-step tutorial, the fantastic design team put up several projects a week on the Bee Crafty blog. You can find a link for that on the website as well. Okay, my lovelies. A4 11 by 11. Oh, 11 by 11? I don't think I have an 11 by 11. I've got some A4 ones though. Sorry. Got distracted. So thank you so much for joining me, my lovelies. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. And look, it stuck. If anyone thought the video had frozen, it hasn't. Can you imagine if people are watching this with the sound off? They'll be like, she hasn't moved. Do you think YouTube stuck? It was not stuck. I was stuck sticking. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye.